Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're jumping right in. We're going to build a fully functional, scalable, serverless API using AWS, and we're going to do it all in just a few minutes. So, let's get started.
You know the drill, right? If you've ever spent hours or even days configuring servers, patching them, worrying if they can handle the traffic, you know what a headache it can be. So let's talk about a way to just leave all of that behind and focus purely on your code, letting the cloud do all the heavy lifting.
And that is the core promise of serverless. It's simple. You provide the code, and a service like AWS Lambda handles absolutely everything else. It scales up, it scales down. Whether you get a handful of requests or thousands per second, you never, ever have to think about servers.
So how does all this magic actually happen? To really get it, let's trace the path of a single request in this serverless world we're about to build. It all kicks off when a user, or maybe another application, makes a call to your API. Now, that request doesn't go to some specific server you're running. Instead, it hits this public front door, and it's called an API gateway. Just think of it like the receptionist for your entire application, managing all the incoming traffic.
And here's where the crucial handoff happens. The API gateway takes that incoming request, and it knows exactly what to do. It triggers our back-end brain, the Lambda function. This is where the real work, the actual logic, happens.
The Lambda function just wakes up, runs its code, does its job, and puts together a response. It then sends that response right back through the API gateway, which delivers it all the way back to the user who made the request in the first place. It's simple, it's super efficient, and it's incredibly scalable.
Okay, let's actually do this. And you know what the best part is? This whole thing is totally possible within the AWS free tier. So you can follow along right now without spending a single penny.
And here's our time budget, under 20 minutes. Yeah, that's it. That's all it's going to take to go from absolutely nothing to a live, scalable API. So let's get into it.
First things first, we need to create the core logic of our API. This is the Lambda function that's going to process the requests and figure out the response. We're building the brain of the operation first.
And remember, this code isn't just sitting on a server that's running 24/7. Nope, it only executes when it's triggered by a request. This whole run when needed idea is what makes serverless so cost-effective and efficient.
Actually, creating this Lambda function is, believe it or not, super simple. In the AWS console, you just head over to Lambda, click Create Function, and give it a name, something like My Function. The key here, and this is awesome, is that we can just stick with all the default settings. AWS has already configured everything we need to get up and running.
So once it's created, AWS gives us this default starter code. It's a really simple Node.js function. All it's doing is creating a response with a success code of 200 and a little message that says, "Hello from Lambda." Now remember that message, because we're going to be seeing it again very soon.
All right, we've built the brain, but right now, there's no way for the outside world to talk to it. So, it's time to build that public front door, the API gateway. So, this gateway is what gives our function a public address on the internet, a URL. It's going to handle all the incoming HTTP requests and route them straight to our MyFunction Lambda. Now, AWS gives you a couple of options here. For what we're doing, the HTTP API is the perfect choice. It's designed to be way simpler and cheaper, and it has exactly the features we need without any of the extra complexity.
And you know what? The setup here is just as easy as it was for the Lambda. In the API Gateway console, we'll choose to build an HTTP API. The single most important part is adding an integration. That's what connects to our MyFunction Lambda. After that, we just give it a name, accept the defaults, and we're pretty much done.
And that's basically it. Seriously, we've built the two core pieces, the Lambda function as the brain and the API gateway as the front door. They're built, they're connected, there's only one thing left to do.
All right, so this is the moment of truth. We've put all the pieces together, we've mapped out the path for a request. But does it actually work? Let's find out. Testing this couldn't be easier. First, in the console, find the unique invoke URL that AWS generated for your API. You're just going to copy that, paste it into your web browser, and then tack on /myfunction to the end. That little path tells the API gateway exactly where to send your request. And bam, there it is. Hello from Lambda. That is the exact message from our function right there in your browser. This proves it. The whole chain worked. Our request went through the API gateway, it triggered our Lambda function, and we got the response all the way back. It works.
So let's just pause for a second.
In just a few clicks, you have successfully built and deployed a scalable, serverless API. That's huge. But this is just the beginning. Let's take a quick look at what comes next.
First, a little bit of responsible housekeeping. Even though we're well within the free tier, it's always a good habit to clean up resources you're not using. So you can easily delete the API and the Lambda function. You should probably also get rid of the log group that AWS created to store logs, and the special permission role it made too.
From this super simple starting point, a whole world of possibilities just opens up. You could add authentication to control who can access your API. You could give it a friendly custom domain name like api.yourwebsite.com. Or you could even start integrating it with other really powerful AWS services.
So think about what you just did. You completed this quest. You now have an incredibly powerful new skill in your toolkit. You can build the backend for a website, for a mobile app, without ever having to think about a server. So the only real question left is, what are you going to build next?